guys, back at it again with the white vans. We're back at it again with another car conversation. Most of you guys know that I'm in the midst of applying to doctoral programs. That's my current life situation, and that's been on my mind heavy, of course, because the anticipation of just waiting to hear back and to figure out what direction my life is about to turn in. But aside from that, I've just been reflecting on my journey with my education and my career. So there's so many things and so many details and life events that I want to talk about and that I want to share because it's faith building for me, but I'm also mindful that I don't want to talk too much. So I'm trying to find that balance between sharing what's on my heart and what's important to me and also not talking your head off. So here's my attempt. Rewind. Started in elementary school, of course, because that's when we started school. School was great, did very well, perfect attendance, good grades, advanced classes, all that jazz. Middle school is when I started to struggle, like most people. Maybe most people don't struggle academically in middle school, but I started to, not because it was hard, but because I had other life things going on. Like I said in my last video, just trying to figure out who I am. And at that age, I didn't even know that I didn't know who I was. But, puberty, hormones, all that stuff played a factor, as well as life circumstance that I experienced. So this is a time when I started to get in trouble a little bit. Grades started to slack. But high school was when things really hit the fan. So I went to Duval High School, was not thrilled about going there. And the reputation my high school had definitely preceded it. And I think part of me was bitter that I had to go there, especially because I tried to get into Roosevelt and take the science and tech test, not interested in anything science or tech, which was probably evident by my test scores, but I wanted to try to do anything in my power to try to get out of having to go to Duval. Didn't work out, but I'm glad that it didn't because everything in life happens for a reason. Cliche or not, it is the absolute truth. So I went to Duval, and I think that my time in high school was the part of the epitome of when I just didn't know who I was, and I was like this chameleon that was trying to fit in all these places. On the one hand, I was in talented and gifted and advanced and AP classes, and on the other hand, I'm skipping classes, skipping school, and my grades are starting to sink. So in the midst of all of this, I tried out for the cheerleading team. And I wanted it bad, but there was not really anything impressive about me as a cheerleader, if I'm being completely honest. Like, so unimpressive that I didn't even know how to do a cartwheel at the time. But what I will say is that I was committed and I wanted it bad, so I worked hard for it. Ironically, the cheerleading coach was also one of my teachers at the time. Now, you would think with my attitude and the way that I was behaving in school, she would want to have nothing to do with me, but I think that she saw something in me that I didn't see in myself, and I'm so grateful that she did because I think that she helped change the trajectory of my life and my career and education and all that stuff, even though it sounds dramatic, but this was a really pivotal point in my life. So I tried out for the cheerleading team, made the team by the grace of God, and things were great until report cards came out. So of course, with any sports in high school, you have to maintain a 2.0 GPA. Little did I know that I would ever have trouble with that. Up to this point, I've always maintained at least a 2.0. I got a 1.89. High school is not that hard. It really wasn't, but I just wasn't invested. And up to this point, I didn't have a plan. Like, I wasn't really working toward anything. I'm a first generation college student. My dad went to the military after high school, so I thought that I was going to be a Marine. If you know me, you know how ridiculous that is. But I made the team, didn't have grades. Everybody who didn't have grades got kicked off the team. But again, God's grace. Coach Carter let me stay on the team, not without working my butt off though. So I had to work hard to get my grades up, and she gave me a bunch of assignments and projects and all these things to help boost my grade. But after that point, I never struggled again to get a 2.0, 3.0, 3.5, 4.0. So it clearly was a mental thing. It clearly was a lack of motivation and a lack of direction. I had no idea where I wanted to go, what I wanted to do. And having Coach Carter in my life and being surrounded by other young adult females that had ambition, it definitely fired me up. So, I started going on college tours, and then I decided that I wanted to go to school. That is like a whole nother video in and of itself, but getting into school was a journey. But after being accepted into Towson, I'm like trying to skip through like all the minutia. Who uses that word? I'm trying to skip through all the minor details because I don't want to talk you guys' heads off. But even getting into Towson was just a blessing, and I feel like God has been opening doors ever since then, and even prior to them. I get into school, and the summer before, I'm trying to figure out FAFSA, financial aid, like all these things that I've never done before. I'm 18 years old. My mom has never done them before because, she didn't even finish college, and that was a long time ago. So I know that she wanted to help me, but she didn't really know how. So having to figure those things out on my own was dreadful, and it just felt too good to be true. I'm like, I had this thought. I knew that it was too good to be true for me to go to college. Nobody else around me has gone to college. Nobody in my family has gone to college up to this point. So what would make me any different? And I began to feel defeated. But so many blessings came through that I can't even list that ultimately I ended up getting to school. While I was at school, I think I had this underlying fear and anxiety that every single semester something was going to happen. I was going to have to go home. I wasn't going to be able to finish, whether it be financially or whatever. And, I did have scares, but by the grace of God, again, I made it through. One thing that I kind of glanced over is that in my personal life, one of my best friends at the time used to call me her Dr. Phil. So she's like, yo, you should be a psychologist. You're so good with talking and communicating and a good listener, all that jazz. So that was when my interest in psychology began to develop. Never really was that interested in anything else. So, when they give you advice about college, they say major in something that you're interested in. Boom, psych major. Came in, thought I wanted to be a child psychologist. No, cancel that. So I went through not really a bunch of career options. All of it was, at the end of the day, I want to be a psychologist. So it was around my sophomore year that I decided that, you know what, I'm going to push this thing out all the way. So at this point, it's about 2012, 2013 that I'm saying, all right, I'm going to do what I need to do to be able to get my doctorate degree, to be able to get licensed as a psychologist. Being a first generation student in undergrad, saying that I'm gonna go get my PhD, it just sounded outlandish to me at the time. But I said that this is what I wanted to do, and although I said this is what I wanted to do, I still thought that it was too good to be true and that there would be no way that I would achieve it. But it was the only dream, it was the only thing that I was banking on at that time. So I made it through the rest of undergrad, continuing to learn psych, loving it. So then I decided to apply to a master's program. I got rejected from Towson's master's program, and just because of my own insecurity that I struggled with and still do struggle with, I felt like there was something wrong with me. I felt like I wasn't good enough. I felt like I was dumb to believe that, I could go on to get higher education, but the door opened and I got into Loyola's master's program. And, I did excellent at Loyola, but despite all the things that God had done up to this point to build my faith in regard to the plans He had for me, I still wasn't receiving it. My heart still wasn't soft, I guess, for lack of a better word. So while I'm at Loyola, we have to go to an internship. We had to apply for an internship. I'm like, okay, feel nervous. I'm like, nobody's going to choose me. All this negative self-talk, story of my life, but that won't continue to be the story of my life because I refuse. But, I started applying, and I applied to the Goucher College Counseling Center, super amped about working there. And then I see that they require 2 letters of recommendation for to finish the application. So because of my faithlessness, I decided that I wasn't going to finish the application because nobody's going to write me a recommendation, all these things. I'm not good enough for somebody to write me a recommendation, whatever. But again, God met me where my faith was, and the director of the program at Goucher reached out to me and asked me to interview despite the fact that my application was not complete. So I'm like, okay, definitely have to complete my application now. So I reach out to 2 professors, and they joyfully accept my request for them to write me a recommendation. Now, here is the crazy thing. So one professor, he actually went to school with the director of the counseling center. They're familiar with one another. They both went to Loyola. He teaches at Loyola. There's that. Then the other individual that I asked to write me a recommendation, she actually taught one of the counselors at Goucher College, and that counselor did research with the same professor that I did research with. How on earth I would have known about those connections? I wouldn't. It's just only God could piece together a story like that. Long story short, I got the internship, and my faith was shooketh to the entire core because I know that I didn't do anything to make that happen, because if it were up to me, the door would have been closed. So I had an excellent experience at Goucher, went on to finish at Loyola, and then at this point, I'm out of a job. So I want to go to a doctorate program, and I know that in order to strengthen my application, I need to get some more research experience, which I was lacking in because of a whole nother layer of faithlessness. I could make video after video about how I've been faithless, but I can make even more videos about how God has met my faithlessness and built it, and has allowed me to be where I am now with the confidence and the faith that I have in Him and in myself now. So I decided, okay, well, I'm not gonna apply to any jobs that aren't going to help get me to where I want to be. And my faith was strong at that point. I'm like, I've worked too hard. I got too much student loan debt. I've invested a lot up to this point. I can do this. And there were people that were skeptical. There were people that were like, maybe you should get a retail job in the meantime. And I'm like, no, I'm putting all my eggs in this basket because I know that it can happen. I know that I can make it happen. And the day that I picked up my master's degree is the day that I got offered a job as a research assistant. And again, I think that it was just about my faith and about my determination and about my ambition. So now we're getting closer to the present. I've been working as a research assistant for a year and some change now, getting some experience. And this past December, I applied to doctoral programs. Scariest thing ever, if you know anything about clinical counseling psych PhD programs, they are very competitive. There's only a certain number of slots of students that they can admit. So it's an extremely intimidating process. And I didn't apply to a lot of schools, and people will tell you to apply to 12 to 14. I applied to half or less than half than that. And even one professor was like, I hope you get an interview. And I know that she didn't mean it in a way that she didn't believe that I could, or I didn't have the ability, but it was about the sheer numbers game and statistics. And present day, I did get an interview, and my heart was overjoyed to find out. And the difference this time around, and the difference in this story, is that I had the faith to match it this time. I knew that God could do this, and I knew that God has aligned my path up to this point. I know that He has plans for me, and I know that I'm walking in my purpose. if you know me as a person, you know I love to connect with people. I love to hear people. I love to listen. And I just want to make people feel like they're valuable and they're important. And what better job can I do that in than as a psychologist? I just want to be able to help people, as cliche as that sounds, because I feel like I have some innate gifts that God has given me to be able to succeed in this field. So my interview is in exactly a week. And if I'm being honest, yeah, I'm kind of nervous. I'm like rubbing my hand right now, so that's how I know that my energy has just shifted. So initially I'm like, I got this, I'm confident, I can do this. And there's still a voice that's telling me that, but then there's the other voice that I've listened to for so long that's like, girl, you would never get into the program. You're not good enough. You're not smart enough. You don't have the credentials. Blah, 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 blah. All these things that are lies. And I fully believe that I can do anything that I put my mind to. I have full faith in God and the direction that He's been leading me in. And I'm trusting Him. I'm trusting Him regardless of what the outcome is. But I say all this to share this story, not to put a pat on my back about what I've done and where I've been, but to share that, one, you can do whatever you put your mind to. If you decide that you want to do it, go after it and do it. Make it happen. I don't know. I wanted to say something else inspiring, but I don't have anything else. And it doesn't matter where you start. It's about where you finish. Where I started off is no indication of where I'm going to finish. And where I started is just the motivation for me to push myself even further than I've ever been. And for me to be able to look back and give back to other young Black women or Black girls who have been in similar predicaments and don't really have a vision for themselves. I just want to be able to let people know that you can create whatever you want to create from you. Your circumstances do not have to define you. So aside from that, that is why I'm so passionate about school and education and helping people, because if I can help make this process just a little bit easier for someone else, I want to do that because it's worth it. Pursuing your dreams are worth it. Do not settle to do something that's comfortable. Push yourself outside of your comfort zone and achieve. So that is like the very fast forwarded version of my life. Well, not my life, but my career and education journey up to this point. Maybe it doesn't seem fast forwarded to everybody that's listening because I know I've been talking for a while, but that is where I am currently. And I would love to continue to take you on this journey for me. I would love to continue to take you on this journey with me. So thank you for tuning in and listening to me rap again. And I would love to continue to share my life and my experiences and my thoughts and feelings and all those things with whoever's willing to listen. Peace and love.